So I think we are ready to get started. For this morning's session, we're going to learn how to build schedule rotations, which are the work patterns associated with the shifts we created in our previous class. We're going to learn how to build some basic rotations, and then I will be interested to know in the types of schedules you run in your department. Perhaps we can enter one or two examples for your benefit. And so we'll get started.
Cool.
Okay, we're going to log into our web application, and we're going to be working from the Build Schedule menu, and the screen we're going to be working from is called Update Rotations. Over on the left, you'll see several schedule rotations that I already have in my scheduling system. When you log on to this screen, it should be blank.
Yep.
And our very first example will be a simple Monday through Friday schedule rotation commonly used by administrative staff or a records department. So we'll get started with that one. And Peter, before I do that, what I'm going to do is just temporarily mute the microphone just because there's some feedback coming through, if that's okay. And you can certainly send your questions to me using the chat option, but after each example, I'll open up the mics in case you have any questions. Okay, so beginning with our simple Monday through Friday rotation, we'll begin by clicking on the Add New button up top. We are going to use a two-part unique code for the rotation we're about to create. My suggestion is use the first part of the code, which is limited to 5 characters, to indicate the department or division that this rotation belongs to. For the second part of the code, in which you'll have more character length available, you should have 12 characters available for that code. A brief description or code indicating the type of schedule that you are building. This will be a Monday through Friday schedule. Under the description field, you have considerably more character length here. Next, we're going to select the date range for the rotation we're building. This does not mean you are assigning any particular employee for that period of time. It is just the effective dates or the available dates for that schedule rotation template you're about to create. So the trick here is to make sure that you are starting your rotation on the right day. For Monday through Friday, any Monday would do. Just keep in mind that this will represent the absolute earliest date in which you can assign an employee to this rotation. So if you planned on building your schedules out retroactively, perhaps till the up to the beginning of the year, you may choose to build it out with an effective date of January 2nd. Now, the end date represents the latest date in which you can assign an employee to this schedule rotation. I'm building mine out till 2025, although this rotation will be worked far beyond that, hopefully. At any time, you will be able to click on any one of your rotations and extend the dates. But for now, 2025 will give me several years of use for this rotation. Next, we're going to set the actual pattern. To do this, we're going to click on the Add Row button. Now, somewhat more complicated schedules might have additional rows, but because this is a Monday through Friday schedule, one row should be enough. Under the Work column, we're going to enter the number of consecutive work days, followed by the number of consecutive off days. We will select the shift that's tied to that rotation. I will choose my administration shift. Now, unless your employees are being assigned to 2 shifts at any given workday, on any given workday, you should not see shift 2. However, I will provide an example of that after we're done with this one. Let's click on the Save button at the very bottom, and the administrative Monday through Friday rotation has been built. Now, you may have multiple departments or groups of people within departments that are working Monday through Friday schedules. You may have to repeat this process depending on how many shifts you created. Here is an example of a records Monday through Friday schedule. So the pattern is the same, but of course we're attaching that to a completely different shift. Now, you might have several administrative employees who work Monday through Friday, but they might work different hours. That's okay. The rotation deals primarily with which days someone is working. We are going to use the shift to determine the default hours, but you will have the opportunity to adjust an individual employee's work times. And we see that from time to time. Maybe you have employees that work Monday through Fridays, but they work adjusted hours on Fridays. That is certainly something that you can do, but at this stage, you're just worried about getting the right work pattern. I'd like to just open up those mics. And Peter, are there any questions on creating a Monday through Friday rotation?
Yeah, just so I'm clear here, I get we obviously have office workers that work a Monday to Friday schedule, but you're saying for different departments or whatever, they would have their own schedule. So if I've got office workers, so I've got, rather than just having a Monday to Friday schedule, by putting people in this schedule, it's only really for that department. Does that make sense? Am I saying it right?
Yes, I believe so. And so within the department, and I imagine you have several districts or precincts.
Yeah.
So Do you have, I imagine you might have administrative or civilian staff in each
Yeah.
one of those precincts?
Yes,
Okay.
we've got admin that work up at headquarters, let's say, at our headquarters department who are doing it. But then we would have sort of shift workers who would work at one of the stations. So they're in totally different locations, but they're working the same hours, but in totally different departments.
Right. So what I would consider doing is, first off, when you create your shifts, and if I may, let's take a step back.
Yes, I've done all that way. You see, on Mars I've done that exactly that. So I've done a whole bunch of the shifts that we actually work here, and like our airport one. So a good example here, the airport police station, they work 2 different shifts. They work a day shift and they work a late shift. So I've created 2 different shifts on the airport for the airport, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And then the rotation, as we go on, we would take those 2 shifts and add them to a rotation for the airport.
Absolutely correct.
Right. So that's what I've done then. So because again, that's the airport. So our forensic support unit, they have 2 shifts. So I've taken those 2 and created those 2 shifts in our system here. And so it's really dependent on the department they're working as to what their schedule is going to be.
That's right. Now, I'm assuming forensic support would be a department that operates within the headquarters. Is that right? That's not something that's necessarily, there's an office for that in each precinct. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, where they actually have their own offices. They're actually at a police station, but they're kind of carved out in their own area, if that makes sense.
Well, absolutely. So there might be certain shifts that each of the stations have in common, right? Each station might have a day shift and a night shift. So we would see a station 1 day, station 1 evenings or nights, and then another one for station 2, station 3, and so on. You might even have a similar breakdown for administrative schedules as well. By separating that, what that allows you to do is it allows you to operate each.
Robert, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do the thing. I'll call you back. Cool. Sorry, go on.
So it allows each precinct to operate as its own separate entity, but allows someone such as yourself, a system administrator, to oversee everything. Right, because I need to know not only who's working the day shift, but what station someone is located at. And okay, given your size,
yeah, so just
I would not. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get my head around this so I understand it. Sorry. So we have 3 police stations, let's say here, and but they all work but we have different rotations. So there'll be A watch, B watch, or shifts, or however you want to call them. So the A watch, but they all work the same hours, regardless of which station they work at. So do I have to create an A watch for each station?
I'll have to answer that with the question first.
Yeah.
About how many employees, how many officers would we have working the A shift at any given time across the 3 stations?
20, maybe 30.
30.
Yeah.
It's not a huge number, and perhaps I can illustrate my concern better by showing you a daily schedule. So this is a schedule based on a smaller police department of about 40 employees with 1 location. And yeah, you'll notice I have a day shift, which no one is assigned to, a night shift where I have several people, and then supporting departments like administrative, records, detective bureau, schedules here as well. If this was a station, this would, in my opinion, make it easier for supervisors within that station just to look at their personnel. If I'm and I apologize for our Americanized ranked titles here. I have my sergeants who, if I was a sergeant in Station A or Station 1, I'm probably just focused on those people. Day to day, that's who I care about. Who is doing what within this particular district of the city. Now, another supervisor of another station should have their own schedule view where they are looking at their day shift and their night shift and just the people within their station or district. So think of it as the 3 stations and possibly the headquarters being 4 separate entities. And we know that sometimes we have officers that might be transferred in between stations for purposes of overtime or maybe simply being reassigned. So even though I am a supervisor of Station 1, I still need to see what's going on in some of those other stations because I may have officers being transferred between the 2 or 3. But what I would suggest we do not do is create one night shift for which all 3 stations are going to be displayed, because we're talking about now 20 or 30 people all grouped together. It's going to be a difficult schedule to, I think,
You've answered the question there. That makes sense now, because I think it was just understanding conceptually where this schedule creation moves to the next phase, how it impacts it. So it does require, and it will require for us to have the same patrol shifts for each of the stations. So that the supervisors log on, they see it, but then the people like me, the inspectors who can oversee, can see everybody and move them between them as they need to.
That is correct. I think the end result should be that, regardless of whether we're talking about an officer or a supervisor, when they log on to this application, when they click on that daily schedule, they should see everything that's going on in their station. And they can use drop-down menus to see additional stations or even the headquarters office, depending on what you would like them to be able to see. So within each station, you're just going to have your day and evening shifts, and then you will have, I'm assuming then you have some sort of squad, platoon, or battalion designation?
The trouble, I mean, it's nothing you wouldn't have seen before, but so I put all the shifts that we work into our build here, and there's 1, 2, 3, there's like 5 different late shifts they'll work, 2 different night shifts, and a day shift. So each station, I'm going to get the right words, will have to have those shifts for each station.
Right. And so do they work, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. Do they work steady shifts, or do they
It's a rotation.
rotate?
It's a set pattern. They'll basically work 2 till midnight, Monday, Thursday, and be off Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and then come back to work Sunday. But it will basically work through a 20-week cycle, but it is a rotating pattern.
Okay.
So it just offers that challenge for me to work out how the hell it goes in. But it'll become clearer as we move on. I get it.
Okay. And so we'll go back to the update rotation screen. And this time I'm going to create a slightly different type of rotation, and this is going to be based on what we call Pitman schedules here, and I know that's not what you're using there, but it might help illustrate how you may best want to create yours. After I put this one in, I'd be happy to create a set of shifts similar to yours, and even create a rotation that would be more similar to how you work there. But for this example, now I am creating a rotation for my patrol division, so I'll choose PTL as the first part of the code. And here I might use some sort of a squad designation like A to determine what shift and which days these folks would be working. And under the description, as I did before, just a expanded version of what I had above. Now, when you start getting into these sort of staggered schedules, the dates become far more important. It may not just be a matter of getting it on the right day, like a Monday through Friday. There's very little ways to sort of mess that up. Here, I have to get the very first day of that work pattern. For this example, I'll just choose May 1st, and I will build that out again for several years. And this might end up being a 2-week pattern, so I might have multiple rows. And so a Pitman schedule here would look like this: 2 days on, 2 days off on the day shift, 3 days on, 2 days off, all on the same shift. And this pattern will just continue to repeat itself until the end of 2025. Now, this works well for those that are working steady days, but if after that 2-week period they were transitioning over to nights, we would add additional rows where we can enter the pattern, and the days on and days off might be exactly the same. What's going to change is the shift that the pattern is tied to, which in this case would be my night shift. So I just created a 28-day pattern. If I click on the Save button and click on the rotation that was just saved, I can view the sample up top. This is handy because it's going to give you a calendar view for the schedule you just created, just to make sure that you established the right pattern. If the pattern is incorrect, exit out of the calendar view, and you may want to review the date or the pattern itself. Chances are that's where the problem is. Now, would your and you explained, you gave me an example of one of the schedules, but would there be a situation where someone rotates to a different shift without days off in between? For instance, I could end my day shift today and then tomorrow work an evening shift. Would something like that ever happen?
Sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, that definitely would happen because somebody say they're going to finish as a PC one day, a constable one day, the next day they're going to be a squad sergeant. So they would actually, and that happens all the time. We'll say to somebody, look, you'll finish here, you'll have one day off, and then you'll start on A squad. So you'll move from B squad to A squad and change from a constable to a sergeant.
But that would be in instances of someone being reassigned, right?
Yeah.
They might. Oh, okay. But as far as someone's base schedule is concerned, does it ever work out where I might work day shift today, and then as part of my base schedule, I might go right into a different shift the following day? And the reason why I bring that up is because sometimes what happens is you'll have a certain amount of days on and days off where you might work a day shift, and I'm sorry, I don't have an 8-hour day shift apparently.
No, we have 10 hours. Yeah, I get it. That's fine.
And so after my 3 days off, I may transition into midnights. And so the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because in the event that there is no day off break in between that type of transition, you would leave that set to 2 days on, 0 days off, and then 2 days on midnight. So if this rotation began on a Monday, that would be your Monday and Tuesday. You would have 0 days off, and on Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays, you would work that shift followed by possibly 2 days off. So I just wanted to give you maybe a few more examples, but at this time, I'd be happy to mimic some of the shifts that you have there, and we can even try building a rotation through here if you would like.
Yeah, that would help me because, and there is, I see the pertinence of this is because, like for our communications room, they'll work a night shift that starts on Sunday night at, so they come in at 10 o'clock, say on Sunday night, they work through till 8 o'clock Monday morning, but Monday morning is actually their rest day. And then they're back to work Tuesday at 2 o'clock. So that I take it that by not doing it, by making sure that the work day off day thing is that would put restrictions on the scheduling of the pattern.
Yes. So in a case like that, if this was the Sunday, they would be on a sort of a night shift. They would have 1 day off, and then they would come back. So that would be Sunday. They're off Monday. They're back Tuesday, but on a different shift, right? Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to give you keyboard and mouse controls so we can share that. And let's take a step back to our setup menu, to our setup shifts screen. And do you think a precinct or station type shift would be a good example to sort of workshop?
I think there might be a little bit more complex for me. The station one, maybe maybe the operations room one, because that does have varying shifts on it. Let me just. I've actually put all these duties into. Would it help if I actually just? Let me have a look. See if I.
I would be happy to look at yours if you would like. If so,
Sure.
I would just ask to allow a moment to stop recording. This is actually the end of the topics we cover for this class anyway,
Right,
and we'd
okay.
like to publish these on our YouTube channel.
Where's my snagget? Video. I've been playing with this one as well now. Getting all good with this stuff.
Oh.
I've been doing some training videos for work as well. Right, there we go.
3, 2, 1, action. Okay, so let's click on the Add New button. And I believe you were abbreviating this ComOps.
Yeah.
Okay. I only have 5 characters. Did you have a preference for how we could abbreviate that?
I think I did. If you look at the build rotate, I did. I should take a screenshot of it to show you. But anything you like. I know that code gets fixed once it's in, and you can't change the code later on.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's fine. If I need to, I'll play with it, and if I need to change it and make it work for me later on, then I'll do that.
And, you know, when it comes to the code, not many people are going to see that.
Yeah.
If at all, they're going to see the description, which you can change anytime you wish.
Yeah.
So this pattern did not begin on the 1st. I believe, and maybe we could bring the spreadsheet up if
Yeah.
you could. I thought that was May 5th, but it could be.
So you want that one?
Yes, the 5th. Okay. Wonderful. Let's build that out. Now the fun begins. So the first row, 3 and 2 on 19. Next.
I'll just put that spreadsheet on the screen beside me so I can, if you don't mind, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got just so I can see it as you're going along them. Cool. Yours.
And you know what might be happening is when I click on the field, it may minimize. So let's try this. I'm going to resize.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that might make it a little easier for us to put them.
How does that work?
That might do the trick. There we go. I think we got it. Okay, so now we have 2 days on 8 to 1600 without a break because they're going to work 2 days on
The weekend. Yeah.
there we go. Okay. That will be followed by 1 day off.
Okay, that's making sense now. Okay.
And this is going to be 16.
Yeah, they'll be day. No, they're late, aren't they? Are they?
Oh, yes.
1600 midnight. Yeah.
There we go.
and then you're going to get 4 with 2 days off, and they're going to be the co-op's night shift, Monday to Thursday nights. Yeah. Yep, that one. Yep. 2 days, and then it's so then you're going to get one 12-hour shift. Weekend day shift, yeah. 0 days off. 2 weekday nights. So weekday late days, isn't it? With 3 days off, I think. Was it 3 days off? I have to look at the one behind it.
Off on the 31st.
No,
yes.
but that's the same month. Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, look at the one behind it. I think it's just 2 days off.
2 days off.
Yeah, it's 2 days off. Yeah, and they would be 8 till 4s, 0800 to day shifts. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it should be back to the start of the Friday nights, isn't it? Yeah.
That is correct. So then it cycles back.
Yep.
And if I was to save this, and notice it didn't take very long, even though we put several rows in there. Now if I was to click on that and view the sample, it allows us to see that pattern, not necessarily in the format you might be used to, but it allows you to troubleshoot it.
Make sure all the days are filled and that the cycle's rotating.
That's right. So I believe we were looking at, it was this one here.
Yeah, that's where we started the cycle from.
Okay, so then this, this is a different group, right?
Yeah, so if you click the one behind in between, you'll see that's the June one.
Aha, okay.
So that all you saw was the month of May, and this is the month of June now.
Right, so on June 2nd, I should expect to see...
They come
right,
back.
And there it is.
Right, yeah, because that's... So, all right, so with that labeling then, so where does that labeling come from? Is that what I put in, is it? From the...
It appears to be, that might not be your label. That might be our...
Because the
that might be us. That might be something...
ComOps weekday nights is what I've labeled it. That's what it's... CO, ComOps weekday, weekend nights. That's how I've labeled it.
Yes, this is using the shift code, I believe. Oops, I think I overclicked.
It's all right, you got it.
Okay. Let's take a look at your shifts. So it's using whatever code.
Yeah, it was just the times on it were that whole day, wasn't it? So I just wondered whether that was anything linked to it, because it didn't show the hours. It just showed it midnight to midnight.
Yes, and that's going to be something I'm going to have to address with our Chief Technology Officer here, because I believe that's just our program giving the wrong dates on the preview screen. But your shifts are configured properly. I can work it out, because
the code actually, like I've got here, my shift code is ComOps weekday night shift, and then ComOps weekend night shift. So I knew to distinguish the shift code. So as long as I can see that schedule, I can follow it through on the preview.
Okay. Now, there was another, so that was A watch. Now, is B watch working the same pattern, but starting on a different day?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the desktop application, the desktop version of this program?
No, we couldn't. We tried installing it; it wouldn't work. And then, obviously, I think from having the talk with Scott, you basically said you were moving away from it and weren't supporting it. So I thought, well, there's no real, unless you can, unless you want me to install it. But I installed it, but it didn't work. It wouldn't actually. It wouldn't. There was problems your end. I think we were getting through the firewalls and everything okay, but it just wasn't working.
Okay. Okay. There are certain things that are still being transferred over or implemented into the web version. When it comes to these types of work patterns, it almost allows you to copy, not copy and paste necessarily, but it gives you a few shortcuts. I think, generally speaking, it's not, it's a little bit of work up front. The good news is that once the templates are created, they're good for several years. Unless this schedule goes through any changes, you shouldn't have to come in here and modify this.
Yeah, and there's going to be very few of employees here in Bermuda that are actually going to do this, because I'm really limiting this down to half a dozen or so that are going to have this, because I really want to get all this grounding in place, and for the people to actually then just come in behind me and just obviously understand how this is done, but hit the ground running with the system when it kicks off. So it's actually built and ready to go when we start training. Because having done projects before, the biggest failures I've had is the time between when we train people and when we go live. And it just, the last system we did, I argued against it, but it still took 6 months, and it just frustrated the whole process when we were trying to get people on board.
Yes, and if I may offer a suggestion for implementing our system, is to continue not only with the build sessions, but even continue on with the advanced setup and the training classes, because even though you're going to have an on-site instructor, it would be great for you to have as much knowledge up front, which gives you the opportunity to log on to the application, to, even if you were to gather a small group of users, to either get their feedback or just to do some testing so that you guys can start talking about, guidelines for using the system or workflow. That allows you to gain some knowledge of the system so that when your instructor comes to visit you, he can train as many people as you would like, and maybe you guys can focus more on advanced functionality. Oftentimes what happens...
That's exactly where I'm taking it, actually, Rob, because it is that. But I'm just getting a grounding, really, as to... I really just need to understand the concepts of the system, get it right in my head, and then bring the people around me that I know are going to be the ones doing it, so that almost I can cascade that knowledge I've got a little bit at the first, and then make sure we're on the right track when the trainer gets here.
Yes, yes. So that to the point where having the instructor on site is really just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
You already have, that knowledge. Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
And I've done several of the like computer installs and projects, and we've got several other ones on the go at the moment. And it's just when I've tried to involve too many people, it just hits it's like going through treacle, trying to get people on board on the same page and at the same stage. And I really just need to get it get a foundation in place first, get a few key people around me that know it, and then we'll be moving forward. So that almost the trainer really, I really want the trainer actually doing more sort of broader stuff with other users and the technical stuff with us. So
Okay. Okay.
so we'll see how it works. I mean, the point about it is we can't bring this instructor over yet at all, really, until the end of June or at least middle of June, if at all, at the earliest. It's probably going to be July time. So so I've got a good whack of time ahead of me where I'm able to carve out for this project specifically.
Yes, I think you certainly do. Okay. Okay. As far as the example we gave, I mean, how's your comfort level?
I'm good. No, it's nice. This was what I started playing with this, and I just didn't quite. I couldn't get that. I mean, I'm really good with understanding, and I mean, I've developed shift systems that people have worked and stuff. So I get shift systems. I get other work, but I didn't quite understand the work off schedule, how that worked, and obviously not having days off. But that all clicked into place for me to see. Right, okay, it just made sense now.
Okay.
So I'm going to go away now and build the schedules for all of the shift patterns and stuff like that. What I would like to do, actually, more than anything, is get our employees. Like Scott had mentioned it. I think was it Rob mentioned it as well about doing the import for the data. I'm not, I'm almost at the state. It's only 500 employees. I'll sit and bloody import them myself, as a mass import and stuff like that when I get to those classes, I think, probably. But it would be nice to have individuals in there. As I move on to the next lesson tomorrow and stuff, that we've got employees in there.
Okay. Would you have a moment for me to ask on an update on that? I'd be happy to ask.
I can give you right now the service listing, which is in a spreadsheet format. In fact, actually, let me just, because I'll just put it. I mean, you might actually know. Let's have a look. See if I can put one up right now. So this is our most recent service listing. Are you seeing that one now?
I see it. Employee number, service number. Is a service number almost like a badge number?
Yeah. So this, our service number here is the badge number. The employee number here is what's used really for our payroll. This, what is it? ID number. This is a government assigned one, so we would need this in there, I think, as well. And obviously, like nationality plays a big role in it because because again we have here a spouse of a these become relevant as well for the employee profile, let's say.
So we have to capture nationality. Okay.
Yeah, we would need nationality because. And I'd also actually this spouse of a Bermudian thing has a different bearing on type of contract that an officer has here as well. So even what they've done here is, I mean, I wouldn't ask. I mean, that's something that I'll go through myself for the limited number of employees that are to capture that. But one of the customizable fields I would want to have recognized as that. But again, you've got these date promoted stuff, which is relevant to the ranks they're at, etc., because that would affect their pay codes, etc. But this is really all the information. We have a Great Plains software, but this is this is more up to date than Great Plains software. But we don't actually have where these officers are assigned.
Right. This is just like a personnel file.
Yeah, and I mean, there's three. So you've got police officer listing, which is we've only got and this is our current listing right now. So we've got 394 police officers. The ones in black here are rehired officers, obviously, because they've so we've got support staff of 71 support staff.
Okay.
So that takes, so that's what. And then,
this file, it's pretty close. I mean, it's not in the format which we need in order to import it in, but I think with some light massaging of the data, we should be able to do it. I did have a question. What is PID number? It's over on the far right.
I asked that question. Where did I? It's assigned by the government. I asked Michael Trott exactly that question, actually. These are from.
Perhaps it's a payroll ID number?
Position identification number.
Position identification.
Every government position has a number attached to it, regardless of department, union, rank, etc. These numbers are allocated from the government resource department, human resource department.
I see. So this number is unique, right?
It's a unique number.
Okay. So I have to find a place to put that.
But that can just be a customizable field. That's fine.
Yeah, you know, the customizable field doesn't bother me so much as I'd like to try to reduce the amount of times you have to go in and modify an employee's personnel record. Yeah. We'd like to try to dump as much as we possibly can. Since we do not know what group the employee is assigned to, that would either have to be added as an additional column to this document, or we would have to place them generically into a group and then reassign them later.
Yeah. I think we'll do it that way because it'll be easier. The only ones that can do that really are going to be us. I think that's based on where people are at the moment. So once and the difference to that is some of the, I mean, actually, I'm pretty good. I actually know all through where probably 80–90% of all these officers actually are and which shifts are on. So I'll probably do that myself to make sure that it's done. So they're on the shifts and stuff before they even log in, and we'll just tweak it as the users actually come on. So I'll assign them positions and roles, etc., and update that manually.
If you were to send that file to me, I would be happy, you know, once you get anything else that you may want to put in there, if you were to send that file to me, I will, I'll be happy to take a look at it and see what I can do to modify it from its current format into what we need. For instance, we have to separate the first and last name fields. I don't think that's very difficult. And we'll map the rest into existing fields in our system so that PID number, you know, we'll be sure to put it somewhere. But yeah, if you would like to send that to me, I'd be happy to look at it.
Francisco, which address do you want it to?
My email address is F.
Hang on, let's just.
Sure.
Hang on, share. Email. Send it attachment. Ready?
And that is F. Espinosa, ESPI.
ESPI.
NOSA. At vcssoftware.com.
All right.
That's it. That's it. It will make its way to me. I'll be happy to look at it and see what I can do with it. I may end up involving other team members. In the event it takes longer than a week, I will be serving jury duty for for 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens with that. But
Well,
in the event,
you say 2 weeks. I know how these things can drag on.
yes,
You say which trial you end up with a big murder trial. You're there for many months.
Well, it's federal court, so who knows what's going to happen?
You never know. Juries are a funny thing.
Yeah.
So just obviously the ones we'd need, because these will all be users.
These will all be users.
Yep. So all of these will have to be users. And I know so that's 11, 71, 83, 83, 83. It was 91. Was it? 83 less 6 is 77. So that's 477 users. But we really want to I really want to bring our reserve officers on it as well, because when we're doing scheduling and listing for who's actually on duty, and I think that's one of the things that I think some of my supervisors haven't really understood the benefits of seeing what staff's actually on duty. Because that's obviously one of the listing, when you're logging in and seeing who's actually on duty is a huge thing for us, because we don't know.
Yes, and one of the other things that you're going to learn to do as you move forward with this process is learn to create job assignments. So not only are we going to know who is working on any particular day at any particular station or precinct, but you also have the ability to assign them to specific jobs. Is there a post within a district that needs coverage?
That's huge. I mean, that for us as well, is that. I mean, like I say, we got GPS vehicles coming in, which obviously we're a little bit behind the times, but they're coming in board. And there are certain roles. So there's static. We still protect our premier and stuff like that. So there's a static duty, a government house here that somebody gets assigned to. So those are relevant as to where they are, what exactly, which, almost down to which extension they're on, etc. All that information can be, because those posts. If we create those posts in the system or they have that information there, so when they're assigned that post, then we know exactly where they are and how to get a hold of them.
That's right. That's right. Now, going back to the communications group, is that communications group simply for the police department, or do they also operate for the fire department?
No, well, we respond 911 for police, fire, and ambulance, but we redirect the calls to fire or ambulance. We'll listen in on them still to see if there's a police response needed, but we actually receive. But they're all police officers.
Oh, okay. And the only reason why I brought that up is because the job assignments for the police side of things might be a physical location where someone is working. We do also support pay upgrades. So if you have someone who is being upgraded to a different rate for some reason, that is also supported within our job assignments. But sometimes in a communications environment, we sometimes use jobs for the actual channels that are being serviced by that employee, which, there will be plenty of time to talk about those specifics, but it's just consistent with what we were talking about.
No, I mean, there's a big thing here. We do have what we call it acting ranks. So somebody will be assigned an acting rank for a period, which would be a different role per se, maybe even on a different shift. So you're basically going to be dragging them across and putting them on a different shift and at a different rate for that duty for that period. And again, we've got on-call stuff and we've got all of that stuff as well. So that's all got to be configured and put in. One of the issues I'm sort of trying to get my head around actually going forward though is just how as a service we're going to deal with leave requests and linking what's actually happening in this system to a business process of how we approve leave. So the documents or whatever, I really want to try and get us going digital. So I don't really want bits of paper flying around to prove an application for bereavement leave if the system can do that, if that makes sense. So you
Yeah.
put in a request for leave. You want the type of leave it is from a pick list is bereavement leave. You add in the comment section, listen, my auntie's just died. Well, it can't just be a comment like that. You really have to to verify that or authenticate that the request is justified. Our rules and regulations require a format for a report to be sent in for approval.
Right. So if there is a need for bereavement leave to be taken, I would imagine that the employee is calling and saying, someone has passed away. Okay, condolences, you're going to be out for a couple of days, and then upon return to work, they provide you with those documents. What is the timeline for something like that?
I mean, it depends, because again, we are an island, there's different rules. If we have a lot of contract officers working here, so somebody who has to go overseas for bereavement leave is entitled to 5 days. Somebody who stays on the island, the local leave is 3 days. And again, it depends. I mean, it's human life, so it's everyday life. So it may be, look, my auntie's died, I need to go home next week, or it's, listen, my father's just died, I'm leaving tomorrow. So I'm not too worried about when it gets updated in the system and stuff like that. It's more about how, when we look back and say, well, hang on a minute, you had bereavement leave last June. Where's who okayed it? What was it okayed for, and who actually died, and all that information that we need.
Yeah.
Because if somebody says, well, hang on a minute, this is the second time your auntie's died in the last 3 years. And we've had that situations before where somebody's grandmother's died 2 or 3 times, just so they want to get her, because that's part of the issue as well. So you need a paper trail and to reference that back to say where that leave was applied for, what was the information around it and being actually authorized.
Yes. So after you're done with your basic schedule build, which is classes 1 through 4, by the end of class 4, you should have your employees assigned to a base schedule, minus any part-time or per diem employees that you have that are not scheduled through a rotation. But generally speaking, you should have a fully functional schedule. In the setup classes following that, you're going to learn how to create the time off and the overtime reasons that will eventually get posted onto the schedule. And the way that's going to then impact your users is when someone requests any type of time off, they will log on to the application. They can either navigate to the request or schedule time off screen from the employee menu, which for your basic users will be where most of the functionality will be found. I can request time off. I can request overtime if my shift runs late. I can view my schedule, specific schedule activity through the employee menu. Or if I was Robert Novak here, I can click on my name, and from the request time off screen, I will fill out the form. Robert, because he is a basic user, cannot request time off on anyone else's behalf but his own. Yeah. He can request any time frame that he would like. If he requested 2 weeks off, the system will know only to deduct time off based on the working schedule, so it knows what the RDOs are. If he is taking a single day off, it will know what shift he is taking. If he's requesting multiple days off and that spans more than one shift, he would have the option to specify which shift within the date range he would like to take, or he can simply say, take all shifts off within the date range.
That makes sense, yeah.
Next, he's going to select the reason for the time off. Now, for something like bereavement, you may not be uploading time into their banks like you would with vacation or sick time. They have access to that, but they're not necessarily given specific time to burn. Under approval status, the only option a basic user should have is a request, whereas a sergeant would have the ability to post approved time off directly onto the schedule in the event that Robert was calling out sick, as opposed to Robert requesting time off in advance.
Yeah.
Under comments is where we would expect that kind of information to be found. You know, who is the family member that has passed away? This is information that would then be made available to the supervisor who's approving it. Now, this is a great example of a situation where we can show your personnel how to request time off. However, the policies and guidelines of your department is something that, you know, we're simply not, you know, an authority on. So this is during the training where we're going to say, listen, you can request anything you'd like, but for bereavement, know that when you submit that time off, we're going to need that documentation. And until that is provided to us, this time will not be approved, or it will get switched over into a no-pay day off. Because that could happen, you know, maybe, you know, we hope it doesn't, but I could call out and say, you know, there's I had a death in the family.
We're not like that. Wouldn't happen here. It actually just wouldn't. It's quite strange to have the setup we have here, that just the employment regulations and rules and stuff like that. So we wouldn't be. There's not a situation that we have really where somebody would asking for leave and not be being paid.
Okay.
So we're quite. Yeah, even for sickness, it doesn't even happen for sickness. So.
So if I ended up, and this is probably an extreme situation, I had a death in the family, and I was granted the time off, or I should ask, would the time be granted off before I provided you with the documents?
Yeah,
or
I mean, that would happen. I mean, the thing is, you requested it. And I think the only I'm trying to work out here is just in my head for a business process point of view, not necessarily from and matching the system up to how we go about our work. Is that I'm fine with the comments, the request, the reasons, stuff like that. What I would like to know is that there's some sort of referencing that I can, even if I just got a reference number for this application of bereavement leave, that I can reference to the documentation I'm actually submitting, so that. Do you see what I mean? So that I can marry the two up at some point. Even if they're not connected system-wise, I can still say, listen, this email report that went in for bereavement leave under this reference number refers to this time off entry on the POSS.
Well, we do have several, I think we have several reports that would help you do that. I guess for me, it's understanding what exactly you're trying to link over to that item.
So you've got it here, actually. You've got it here. Doctor's note provided. So you've got doctor's note provided there for a sickness. So we've got uncertified and certified sick. Yeah. How do I marry up that physical doctor's note to this entry? Somebody's got
I see.
Do you see what I'm saying? So I've got a piece of paper here that a doctor told me he's certified sick. I've got an entry in POSS that says, yes, they were given sick period for this time, but I've got a document that goes with that.
Okay. So although I cannot upload the document into this record,
exactly. I just want to reference it.
There are ways that you could either reference it through some sort of identification on the document itself, which can then be displayed on any report that you run. So if I wanted to run a time off activity report, I would have any comments that either the requesting officer made or the approving supervisor may have entered into it. So perhaps upon receipt of the document, we can modify it to reflect that a document has been received and any details about that document, so that if we ever have to pull it from a file, we can.
So I was just saying, we can put a link in there then?
You can't put a link to the document from here. You can only refer to the document using text. However, if you chose to upload the document or scan the document, you can link the document to the employee's records, which is, you're still not linking it to the time off activity, but you're uploading the electronic document into the employee's profile, so that you may have a collection of 3 or 4 of these documents over the course of an officer's career there, that are all, associated with some sort of time off.
Wouldn't actually be. I think the benefit here is we wouldn't actually be uploading the document, because we're actually bringing in a document management system where it's basically an HTML format that we may end up asking for some conversations between Salem One, our document management system, because we don't want to be taking up space on documents like that. We just want to be able to say, listen, it's here, it's on our server, we just want the link for it. So,
well, that's interesting that you say that. If you are going to be using a document management system, then they might be able to provide us with access to the file via the link, which means you can then enter that link into the comment section of the day off.
There'll be meta tags or data tags or whatever it is that on each document. So there'll only be this one copy of this document. Nobody will be having multiple copies of it, because that's what we're doing. We're scanning and emailing multiple copies, taking up all this space, and that's the whole reason we've gone over to a document management system, so that we just have one copy of this.
Yes. Now that you mention a document management system, that does open up a lot more possibilities, I would think.
And that's really, I like to have those sort of things in my head moving forward, so that we're doing the most effective business process for how it's done. Because, like I say, if it's just a question of, we would scan a document within our document management system to a scheduled place that we could then decide where it should be linked to, would be awesome.
Okay.
So, but that's, I think as we move on and we get more advanced and stuff, I'm meeting with the document management people next week for some quite intensive training, and I might actually just go through this with them on what I've got, and just to see their point of view, because we have a records management system as well, so we've had to actually patch in and put in a whole system to actually be able for us to link through to the documents we upload. So whether it's a receipt for somebody's handwritten statement to an exhibit, we still need to capture that file and have it linked through to things. And I can see the same happening with POSS, because we have mountains and mountains of paper. For an annual leave application, is still handwritten on a printed paper, and there's reams of it. And I don't want that to continue when we have a system here that will actually capture all that, and that we shouldn't be having an annual leave application form sitting on somebody's desk and then also having to fill in POSS.
I know, I agree completely.
Yeah. So, lovely. All right, thank you, Robert. It's nice to sort of have a little sneak peeks into how it's progressing forward. I'm signed up again tomorrow, so I don't know whether you're going to get me again tomorrow. But I want to sit now and play and put a few schedules in my system now, and just see about how the different shifts will work from a shift point of view.
Okay.
So I'll build up the rest of the com-op shift pattern, and I think I want to build up the patrol shift pattern now, just so that they're in the system. I might actually add a few more employees so I can actually start assigning people and seeing how they move around and stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Sounds
Excellent.
great.
Thanks for your time again.
Thank you so much for yours. I appreciate
All right.
it.
All right. All the best. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.